Chapter 5, Mishnah 5. When a Zav affects Midras by lying, sitting, leaning, etc., on a bed or seat, he transmits Tuma to it, and it becomes a Mishkav or Moshav of a Zav. If a Tar person then lies or sits on the Tame bed or seat, he too becomes Tame. See Chapter 2, Mishnah 4. The following Mishnah teaches that earlier that in either case Tuma is transmitted only when a majority of the person's body rests on the bed. In addition, the Mishnah teaches that this law does not apply to the bed itself, i.e., even if the Zav or Tar person rests his body on only a small fraction of the bed, it still becomes Tameh from the Zav or transmits Tuma to the Tar person. We now turn to the words of the Mishnah. If a Tameh person, i.e., a Zav, rests his body on only the minority part of a Tar bed, or if a Tahor person rests his body on only a minority part of a Zav's bed, i.e., a bed that had already become Tameh through the Midras of a Zav, the bed or the person becomes Tameh. That is, the Tahor bed becomes Tameh with a Midras from the Zav, and the Tahor person becomes Tameh from sitting on the bed of a Zav. Although the Zav or Tahor person sat on only a minority of the bed, Tuma is still transmitted from the Zav to the bed, or from the bed to the person, since the Zav or Tar person rested the majority of his body on the bed. However, if only a minority part of the Tameh person, i.e. a Zav, rests on a Tahor bed, or if only a minority part of the Tahor person rests on a Zav's bed, even if that minority part of the person covers the entire bed, Tahor, the bed or the person remains Tahor because Tuma is not transmitted to or from a bed unless the person rests the majority of his body on it. The Mishnah sums up its first ruling. We thus find that Tuma enters the bed and is transmitted from it through a minority part of it. That is, Tuma enters the bed when a Zav sits on even a minority of it, and Tuma is transmitted from the bed, and enters a Tower person when the person sits on even a minority of it. We learned in Mishnah 3 that any non-living object, such as a food or utensil, that carries or is carried by the mishkav of a zav remains tahor, provided there is something separating between the object and the mishkav, so that they do not touch each other. Our Mishnah gives more details regarding that law. Furthermore, if a loaf of teruma is placed on the mishkav bed of a zav, and there is a piece of paper between the loaf and the mishkav, whether the loaf is on top of the mishkav, as in the case just described, or whether the loaf is underneath the mishkav, the loaf remains tahor, even though teruma is more susceptible to tuma than ordinary food, and even though it is separated from the mishkav by only a thin piece of paper, the loaf remains tahor. Similarly, if a loaf of teruma is placed above or below a stone that has saras, which transmits tuma to people and objects, and a piece of paper separates between the loaf and the stone, the loaf remains tahor. But Rabbi Shimon rules the loaf tame in this case, i.e. the case of a stone with saras, because a stone or a person with saras transmits tuma to everything that is in its dwelling place.